Daily Words of God. The Gospel of Matthew of the New Testament documents Jesus' genealogy. At the start, it says that Jesus was a descendant of Abraham and of David, and the son of Joseph. Next, it says that Jesus was conceived by the Holy Spirit and born of a virgin, which would mean he was not the son of Joseph or the descendant of Abraham and of David. The genealogy, though, insists on associating Jesus with Joseph. Next, the genealogy begins to record the process by which Jesus was born. It says Jesus was conceived by the Holy Spirit, that he was born of a virgin and not the son of Joseph. Yet in the genealogy, it is clearly written that Jesus was the son of Joseph, and because the genealogy is written for Jesus, it records 42 generations. When it goes to the generation of Joseph, it hurriedly says that Joseph was the husband of Mary, words which are given in order to prove that Jesus was the descendant of Abraham. Is this not a contradiction? The genealogy clearly documents Joseph's ancestry. It is obviously the genealogy of Joseph, but Matthew insists that it is the genealogy of Jesus. Does this not deny the fact of Jesus' conception by the Holy Spirit? Thus, is the genealogy by Matthew not a human idea? It is ridiculous. This is how you can know that this book did not come entirely from the Holy Spirit. There are perhaps some people who think that God must have a genealogy on earth, as a result of which they assign Jesus as the 42nd generation of Abraham. That is really ridiculous. After arriving on earth, how could God have a genealogy? If you say that God has a genealogy, do you not rank him among the creatures of God? For God is not of the earth. He is the Lord of creation. And although he is of flesh, he is not of the same essence as man. How could you rank God as being of the same kind as a creature of God? Abraham cannot represent God. He was the object of Jehovah's work at the time. He was merely a faithful servant approved of by Jehovah, and he was one of the people of Israel. How could he be an ancestor of Jesus? Who wrote the genealogy of Jesus? Did Jesus himself write it? Did Jesus personally say to them, "Write my genealogy"? It was recorded by Matthew after Jesus was nailed to the cross. At the time, Jesus had done much work that was incomprehensible to his disciples and had not provided any explanation. After he left, the disciples began to preach and work everywhere. And for the sake of that stage of work, they began writing the epistles and the books of gospel. The books of gospel of the New Testament were recorded 20 to 30 years after Jesus was crucified. Before, the people of Israel only read the Old Testament. That is to say, at the beginning of the age of grace, people read the Old Testament. The New Testament only appeared during the age of grace. The New Testament did not exist when Jesus worked. The people after he was resurrected and ascended to heaven recorded his work. Only then were there the four Gospels, in addition to which were also the epistles of Paul and Peter, as well as the book of Revelation. More than 300 years after Jesus ascended to heaven, Subsequent generations collated these documents selectively, and only then was there the New Testament of the Bible. Only after this work had been completed was there the New Testament. It did not exist previously. God had done all that work, and Paul and the other apostles had written so many epistles to the churches at various locations. People after them combined their epistles and appended the greatest vision recorded by John on the island of Patmos, in which was prophesied God's work of the last days. People made this sequence, which is different from the utterances of today. What is recorded today is according to the steps of God's work. What people engage with today is the work personally done by God, and the words personally uttered by Him. You, mankind, do not need to interfere. The words, which come directly from the Spirit, have been arranged step by step, and are different from the arrangement of man's records. What they recorded, it can be said, was according to their level of education and human caliber. What they recorded was the experiences of men, and each had their own means of recording and knowing, and each record was different. Thus, if you worship the Bible as God, you are extremely ignorant and stupid. Why do you not seek the work of the God of today? Only the work of God can save man. The Bible cannot save man. People could read it for several thousand years, and still there would not be the slightest change in them. And if you worship the Bible, you will never gain the work of the Holy Spirit.